All right, so today we're diving into this whole world of AI talent, and I think we've got a really interesting article here called Flipping the Script in the War for AI Talent.
Yeah.
And, it seems like it's not just about offering ridiculous salaries anymore,
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how this is changing.
right? It's like that old playbook of just throwing money at people.
Yeah.
It's not really working so well anymore.
It's not. And what we're seeing is that the article talks about this idea of like transformative competence experiences.
Okay.
And it sounds a little bit complicated, but I think it boils down to AI professionals wanting to grow and feel valued
Mm-hmm.
and actually be contributing to something bigger than themselves.
So it's less about the size of the bonus and more about feeling like they're making a real impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where this idea of ethical change management comes in.
Yeah.
It's not just about having rules, but creating this whole culture that supports these deeper motivations.
So how do companies actually put that into practice?
Well, the article lays out this really interesting model called the DOIT model, and it's kind of like a roadmap for implementing this ethical change management.
Okay, so what does that look like?
So it starts with discover.
Discover.
Discover what motivates your team. What are they passionate about? What kind of work do they find fulfilling?
So you're really trying to understand the individual and then connect that with the bigger picture of the organization.
Exactly. And then from there, you move into this observe phase.
Okay, so what are we observing?
Well, you're taking a look at your workplace through a competency-focused lens, and you're trying to identify any challenges or opportunities
Yeah.
that might be either preventing or supporting the growth and fulfillment of your team.
So for example, what kind of things might you observe?
It could be anything from a lack of, professional development opportunities to maybe a work environment that isn't inclusive or supportive.
So you're really looking for those areas
Yeah.
where things could be improved to better support the team.
Exactly. And once you've kind of identified those areas, you move on to the Ideate stage.
Okay, so now we're brainstorming.
Right now, you're getting everybody together, leadership, AI, professionals, HR, everyone,
Yeah.
to come up with these creative strategies that prioritize ethical leadership and professional growth.
So it sounds like it's really collaborative.
It is. And the goal here is to turn those observations into these actionable plans.
Okay, and then what happens?
And that brings us to the final stage of the DOIT model, which is transform.
Transform, okay.
Yeah. And this is where you put those plans into action. You're implementing these long-term solutions that are going to drive retention, innovation, and resilience.
So what does that look like in practice?
It could be anything from launching mentorship programs or restructuring teams to align skills with projects.
Okay.
Or maybe you're revamping your whole performance review system.
Interesting. So you're actually making those tangible changes.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought was really interesting in the article was how the author highlighted this advantage that public sector organizations have, unlike big tech companies that often just focus on compensation. Government agencies can offer these mission-driven careers that have real impact.
So for someone who wants to make a difference, the public sector might actually be a really good fit.
Yeah, it's about finding that alignment between personal values and the organization's mission.
That's a really interesting point. So we've got this shift towards ethical leadership, this DOIT model, and then this unique advantage that the public sector has.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot to unpack here.
Absolutely. And it all points to a pretty big shift in how we think about attracting and retaining talent, especially in a field as, dynamic and rapidly evolving as AI.
Let's dig into that a little bit more after a quick word from our sponsor.
Okay, so we were talking about ethical leadership and AI talent before the break, and I'm really curious to hear more about the DOIT model and how it works in practice.
Yeah, definitely. I think the DOIT model is really useful because it gives us a framework for thinking about how to create that kind of culture that attracts and retains top talent in AI. So can you walk me through, what would it look like in a real world scenario?
Okay, so let's say you're leading a team of AI engineers and you're working on a project to develop a new medical diagnosis tool.
Okay.
In the discover phase, you wouldn't just assume, what motivates your team.
Right.
You would actually take the time to talk to each person individually, maybe even do surveys to really understand what they're passionate about and what their career goals are.
So you're getting to know them on a personal level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you might find out that one engineer is really passionate about using AI to improve healthcare access in underserved communities.
Okay, that's great. And then what happens?
Then you move into the observe phase, where you start looking at your current work environment and processes through this competency-focused lens.
Okay.
So you're asking yourself, Are we providing opportunities for our team to develop their skills in areas that align with their passions?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any roadblocks or bottlenecks that are preventing them from doing their best work?
So you're looking for those areas where you can make improvements.
Exactly. And in our medical diagnosis tool example, maybe you observe that your team lacks expertise in a specific area of machine learning that's critical for the project's success.
So you've identified a challenge. What do you do next?
That's where the Ideate stage comes in.
Okay.
So now you're brainstorming solutions. Maybe you partner with the university to offer specialized training courses, or maybe you create a mentorship program
Interesting.
where more experienced AI professionals can share their knowledge with junior team members.
So you're getting creative and finding ways to address the specific needs that you've identified.
Right. And then finally, you move into the transform phase where you actually put those plans into action.
Okay.
So you might send your team to those training classes, launch the mentorship program, or even restructure the project team to better leverage existing expertise.
So it's really about taking action and making those changes.
Yeah, it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Right. And what kind of impact does this have on the team as a...
Well, think about it. If you're an AI professional and you're working in an environment where your passions are valued, where you're given opportunities to learn and grow,
Yeah.
and where you feel like you're making a real difference, wouldn't you be more likely to stay with that organization?
I think most people would.
Exactly. And that's what we're talking about here, creating a culture that attracts and retains top AI talent.
So it's not just about the salary anymore.
It's not just about the money, it's about creating an environment where people feel valued and where they can do their best work.
And where they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Exactly. And I think that's where this conversation about ethical leadership becomes really important.
Yeah, it's not just a nice to have.
Yeah.
It's really essential for success in today's world.
It is, and I think it applies to all sorts of industries and professions, not just AI.
It's about recognizing that people are more than just cogs in a machine.
Right, they have passions, they have aspirations, and they want to feel like their work has meaning.
And when you create a culture that supports, that's when the magic happens.
Absolutely.
So we've been talking a lot about this shift towards ethical leadership.
Yeah.
And how it can really make a difference in attracting and keeping that amazing AI talent.
Absolutely.
What's the biggest thing you think our listeners should take away from all this?
You know, I think the main point here is that things are changing, like the way we think about the workplace, especially in areas like AI where everybody wants those specialized skills.
Yeah, it's not just about offering the biggest paycheck anymore, right?
Exactly. It's about more than that.
It's like we're kind of moving past that old way of thinking where it's just, I pay you, you work.
Right. It's not just transactional anymore.
So what are AI professionals looking for now?
They want purpose. You know, they want a chance to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And they want to feel like they're part of something that matches their own values.
And the DOIT model that we talked about earlier, it really gives companies a practical way to build that kind of culture.
It does. It helps them think about how to make it happen.
So it's like you were saying before, it's not just about talking the talk.
You know, you have to walk the walk.
You actually have to put these ideas into action.
You do. And when you do that, it can have a huge impact, not just on the people you hire, but on the whole organization.
So what kind of impact are we talking about?
Well, you're more likely to keep people on your team when they feel valued. You often see more innovation, and people just feel better about coming to work.
It creates a positive cycle.
Exactly. Everyone benefits.
That's like building this whole ecosystem where everybody thrives.
That's a great way to put it.
And the exciting thing is this isn't just for AI companies, is it?
Not at all. I mean, these ideas can apply to any job out there.
It's about being more human-centered.
Yeah.
Recognizing that people aren't just robots, you know.
Yeah, we all need to feel appreciated.
Supported.
Empowered.
Like we can truly make a difference. Well, this has been a really fascinating look into the world of AI talent and how important ethical leadership is.
It has.
I think it's a reminder that we can't just rely on those old ways of doing things.
The world is changing.
We have to adapt and make sure we're building workplaces where everyone can succeed.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, if our listeners want to dive even deeper into this topic,
Well, yeah.
where should they go?
You know, I always recommend AllyAllez. They have a ton of resources on ethical change management and that DOIT model we talked about.
Awesome. We'll be sure to put a link to that in the show notes for everyone.
Perfect.
So as we wrap things up, here's something for everyone listening to think about.
Okay.
What if this focus on ethical leadership in AI?
Yeah.
What if it's a sign of what all workplaces will be like in the future?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Food for thought.
Definitely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into ethical leadership and AI talent.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
AllyAllez away, like dandelion seeds display. Strength and service by your shine, spreading futures bright.